Hey, Planeswalkers, hope you're doing well and staying safe. Welcome to this week's episode of Friday Night Meta, my friends, with yours truly, Meta Master Mythras. We have a lot going on, a lot of things to cover. We'll talk about that here in a second. But first, we just dropped the tier list. Absolutely check that out for standard and historic if you're interested in that. And I'm out of surgery, 2 days past, a little bit, 48 hours out, doing well, doing good. So thank you very much for everyone that's asked. Now, appreciate you tuning in. Why you're here today, we'll do a recap for you of what happened last week. We're going to dive into best of one. We'll dive into best of three. We're going to break that data down, and we'll do it by isolation this time and a little bit more of a trend. So let me know what you think. Going to try something a little bit different. Then we'll cover a key deck for you as we go to close out the May season here for standard. And then last but not least, we'll talk about some of the qualitative things that have happened. I got one other announcement that I do want to cover off for you as well here. So Planeswalkers, questions or comments, let me know. Feel free to hop on the Discord server. Thank you to everyone also on top of all the support recently, all the YouTube members and patrons. Thank you so much. Please feel free to check out other ways to support the channel down below in the description or connect. I'd love to see you around more. So with that, let's go ahead and quickly recap here. So last week was week 3 of our Friday Night Meta for May. We had a lot of things happening. Preparing for surgery, like I talked about, we hit 2,000 subs. Absolutely incredible. So thank you. We hit a double whammy feat where we crushed a standard and we crushed a historic where we won out in both decks, Gruul Aggro and Boros Burn. Now the big piece here, though, when it comes to best of one and best of three, Mono White Life Gain came back as the #1 spotlighted deck for best of one, and most of the other win rates of the archetypes have been going sideways. And then last but not least, then when we got into best of three, the big one was putting the pedal to the metal with Is It Dragon. So we'll see if that continues into this week. Looking forward to that. And we covered a Gruul Aggro Gruul Adventures deck, because that's one that we cleaned house with on last week. So with that, we're going to dive into our data here for best of one. First off, here's the snapshot that we have going on. Pretty important. This is the full blend here now from Bronze to Mythic. So we'll take a quick look at this. Boros Winata dominating at the top. Mono White Life Gain still a piece. We got really aggro-y stuff in Mono White Life Gain there, assuming almost 30% in the meta. So here's kind of what we got going on at an aggregate level. Lots of trends, lots of things kind of going more sideways, but we're beginning to see some of these slight adjustments here as we're going into the end of the season. A big pop again in Boros Winata. Now, as we drill into a little bit more competitive, we'll take a look. Similar trends that we're seeing. So very, very important there. But we are going to do something different. So many of you are new players, many of you are competitive players, and I wanted to do a little bit different take here. So we'll try and get through this a little bit quickly. So when we just isolate to bronze, here's what we got going on. It's a lot different. So Mono White Life Gain's the way to go here. You can see some of these different decks that are being played here, and we begin to see some of these different trends analysis. So this should help give you a cut if you're playing in bronze right now and what's going on and seeing some of these decks as well. How you want to navigate. And it's interesting to see the bigger range in some of these win rates, but now we'll move into silver. So you can take a look here. Now we again begin to see some of these changes, a little bit tightening at the top end. Mono Red doing wonders here. We have Boros Winata having a huge win rate of success as well, and we can see that here. So this is what we do have going on in silver. As we continue to move up, we'll take a look at gold. Again, many of you playing best of one here, so important to see this. Cycling is the deck in gold right now. So here's what we got going on. We begin to see some of these other cuts, some of these more aggro decks starting to take back off here, and really seeing Mono White Life Gain starting to be capped here. Interestingly, as Mono Red Aggro goes up, feels like my Twitch matches and my journey to Mythic here this month anyway, playing Mono White. So we move further into platinum here. So as we look at platinum, we begin to see again things starting to level off here with Boros Winata, Mono White Life Gain, cycling still being a piece here, Sultai Ultimatum becoming more popular in terms of what's being played. And again, we begin to see some of these changes here and trends in the meta happening. Then we'll get more and more competitive as we get towards the end of the season here. A lot of the top end stuff is really getting nailed down. Boros Venata, Life Gain, and Cycle here remaining. We see Sultai Ultimatum really falling off in terms of popularity. So that's a big piece here as we see Mono Red Aggro, Mono White Life Gain, all these things moving along in terms of some of those rates. Now, last but not least, we'll take a look at Mythic. So here is the final trend that we have, really being dominated by Boros Venata, dominated by Mono Red Aggro, Sultai Ultimatum. Oddly enough, we didn't see any of those today. When I was playing, definitely saw a lot of Mono White Life Gain, but certainly hit a ton of these decks nonetheless, live streaming for you here today. Now, look, we can see very interesting early in the season. Boros Venata heavily played to get people in, and then dropping off very significantly. We see Sultai Ultimatum starting to creep up, Mono White Life Gain becoming more of a piece, and some of these other things as well. So that is best of one for you in terms of a broad spectrum and a little bit more narrow on the competitive side, and then tier by tier there for you as well. So now we're going to move into our best of three portion of today's segment. So we'll open back up in the filtering. We'll go to best of three and we'll take a quick look because it is a little bit different. So here we got Mono White Aggro at the top. We have Rogues, Mono Red Aggro, Naya Adventure, Sultai Ultimatum, again, huge piece. Is it Dragons? We continue to see some of these big movements here. Sultai Ultimatum, Is it Dragons really moving up? Mono Red starting to creep back up. Rogues starting to make a way up, and that makes sense because it plays well against Is it Dragons. It also plays well against Sultai Ultimatum. Cruel Adventure, Naya Adventure, Mono White Aggro, also another one in that space. So that's the broader look that we have. As we drill down a little bit more into the competitive nature, still looking fairly similar, as we can see that, and the trend analysis is kind of doing the same thing here. So all good things for us to keep an eye on as we kind of move through again towards the end of the season. And we'll again do another look retrospective here where we can see each of these filters. What's going to be interesting here is you'll probably begin to find less data because the reality is the majority of you are playing best of one until you get to that mythic, which is pretty common. So you can see another cut here in terms of the meta overview. Next, we'll go into gold. We'll see if this starts to open, which it is. It's getting a little bit more popular. Mardu Sacrifice starting to pop up here. Definitely ran into that a ton today. Actually a couple times. Very fun to play that one on stream. You can check me out on Twitch. But here again, we begin to see some of these different pieces that we have going on in the meta here. Heavily dominated by Sultai Ultimatum. Is it Dragons? Starting to reflect a little bit more of that competitive nature. We'll move into Platinum. Platinum beginning to give us a lot more data in terms of the top 8 decks that we have here. Again, 20, 30, 40%, 50, 60, almost 70% of the meta here, which is pretty impressive. Again, Mono White Aggro still dominating, red doing well, and everything else here in between. We begin to continue to look at a lot of these upticks and a lot of these things changing here. Next, we're going to get into Diamond, where we're certainly begin to see more data again, shifting of data. Mono White Aggro still dominating, dimmer control, something new here in this space as well. Again, seeing some of that play through, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, and some of the trends that we talked about as well. Last but not least, my friends, we're going to take a look at Mythic. So again, final data here, Mono White Aggro at the top of the list, Naya Adventure, Is it Dragons being in the middle, Mono Red Aggro, dimmer Rogues, Sultai Ultimatum, certainly one of the most played decks, but not commanding the highest win rate, which is always important to take a look at. Cruel Adventure not doing as well here at the upper tier, but again, lots of these trends that we covered at an aggregate, and very important for us to take a look at. So that is the recap. That is the best of one and best of 3 data. We also talked a little bit about again, some of the things that happened this week in terms of hitting Mythic, and also my surgery. So that is the key snapshots. Now what I would like to do is actually equip you with a fun deck here as we get towards the end of the season. The one that I wanted to spotlight here is Mono Red Aggro. Mono Red Aggro continues to be an impressive deck. Certainly different variants, particularly those with Phoenix of Ash, also my version that I enjoy running along with Shadow Spear. because they're rogues. So as we begin to see rogues pick up, this is a good play set up for you. It also helps you get over the top of some of those other decks. Oddly enough, I was having a lot of problems with Mono Red Aggro as playing Mono White Life Gain, which is pretty interesting. You can certainly win the matches with Mono Red Aggro. Here's the matchups. In terms of where it doesn't do well, Rakdos Aggro, we don't see as much. Is it Dragons? It's not super well against, well positioned. Martyr Sacrifice, Night Adventure, Teamer Adventure. But again, a broader look nonetheless that we can see. It does okay against Winata, Sultai Ultimatum, Sultai Nest, Dimmer Rogues. Those are all big things. Why I bring this up is terms of positioning here towards the end of the season. A lot of things will change up. You want to know the decks that you're seeing a lot of. That's also why I broke down those cuts and takes a little bit more for you, depending on where you're at. If you're trying to move up one tier, if you're playing in Mythic, those kinds of things. My example again was I think last season or 2 seasons ago, heavily playing Mono White, recognizing that wasn't getting me to the top. So I flipped over to Mono Red, crushed it, and made it to the MQ at top 1,000, something like that. So certainly why I wanted to cover this deck here for you. This list and information will be available down below. So that's one of the key decks that I wanted to cover and spotlight for you today. Now we want to touch on a couple of other things. One of the biggest ones here was Insight Esports. Last weekend had a big tournament, very popular tournament again, 5,000 in terms of invitational. We had a lot of top contenders in it. We can see Arnie was in it. Lots of great names as well. It was both historic and standard, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the standard information because it's pretty interesting. You can see a wide range here. Again, we talked about that dimmer control starting to have a little bit more in the meta. I've also played an Esper control deck recently that you can check out. That was a lot of fun, and certainly give you a different take. But again, this is a big one right now, and that's why you're seeing some of the uptick. So keep an eye on that. We got the Mono White Aggros doing well. Obviously, Sultai Ramp did it, and is it Tempo again? So when we go down and look at some of the information here, this is the big one. Sultai Ramp overall did not do well, even though that was the final. So we talked about this in the tier list between Arena and some of the tournament play, which is pretty interesting. Again, calling this out because it's important for us to take a look at. Is it Tempo commanding a very, very high win rate here? Again, different than what we saw in Arena. And then additionally, Mono White Aggro doing well, having a lot of top contenders, but not closing something out, but also still doing well in Arena. So those are all kind of the big things I want to call out. Again, dimmer control having a healthy win rate as well, something for us to keep an eye on. Now, very, very interesting there. Certainly something we're spotlighting in terms of some of the qualitative pieces and some of the movers here. Now, finally, I want to leave you with one other thing. We have a member named I Am Vibrant in the Discord server. They are throwing together a tournament free-to-play draft. I'll have this information available for you as well. I want to spotlight this because I thought it was very exciting. If you're looking for a tournament to play in, you can certainly read their note here, but they have a nice little tournament that they're putting together on June 5th. EU, lots of cool stuff, and just want to give a little shout out to that and some of the coordination that they're doing to pull that together. So if you have questions, if you have comments, feel free to hop in the Discord server, reach out in terms of this tournament. I think it's firing, getting some good action, but I wanted to kind of throw this out here again for everyone to take a look at, and certainly encourage them to sign up if you're looking for something fun and free to do. So thank you for doing that as part of the community, and why I wanted to spotlight that. So let's go ahead back to the meta list here, because that's why you're here for our lovely Friday night meta, my friends. To kind of close out again, we talked about some of the updates in terms of hitting Mythic, which I did on mobile, by the way, and very, very happy about that. I did that with Mono White Life Gain. You can check that out if you want on the Twitch. I'll have that information there for you, as well as the deck list, the one that I used to hit top 50, which was also CGB's #1 deck. Certainly still very good in this meta, and we'll get you there. On top of that, some of the personal stuff with surgery, we did a recap. We covered off on both best of 1 and best of 3 data here. Let me know what you think of the clips. If you like that better, I'll certainly be open to doing that. Want to get through it quickly and get you the relevant portions, big and little, to help you adjust week over week and help you with your game. So certainly let me know down below in the comments, or let me know in the Discord server, my friends. Last, we also covered Mono Red Aggro. I want to position that deck for you here as we move towards the end of the season, as some options for you to adjust. I'm expecting rogues. That was one of the things that kind of held me back a little bit, like I mentioned a couple seasons ago. Mono Red's a great hard counter to that, and will allow you to tee up well against some of those other decks. And we talked about the Insight Esports, as well as I Am Vibrant's kind of tournament going on. So good luck with everything. Planeswalkers, you stay safe. Looking forward to more of this. And next week, on top of that, check out the tier list, my friends. Flip me a like. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Flip me a like if you enjoyed today's episode as well. Love to hear from you. Great way to support the channel. Again, thank you to all the subs and the members, both Patron and YouTube. Very, very much appreciate your support, so I don't take it for granted. Looking forward to interacting more with all of you. Stay safe, take care. Mythras out. Until next time, my friends. We got a lot more top decks coming your way. We got tier lists, we got weekly meta stuff, and live streaming. So stay safe. Mythras out.